Okay, now let's write some real unit tests for the product model. So let's start by deleting this dummy test. And the first thing we're going to write is a method called setup. This will set up some data that we're going to use for the test that we write. So this will run before the test will run. So let's say def setup, and we're going to first define a variable called user, which we can write as user equals users1. What this will do is create a user record from the fixture data that we looked at earlier. And we'll also set up a product. So we'll say product equals products product. So we'll load a product named product. Okay, now let's write our first test. So let's say test title should be present. So we want to make sure that a product always has a title. So let's first write a failing test. So we can say product.title equals blank. So we'll set it to a blank string. Then we'll say assert not product.valid. So assert underscore not is another convenience helper method provided by Minitest to make a negative assertion. So here we're saying this product, which has a blank title, should not be valid. And when we run this test should fail because we haven't actually set up a validation on the title field of a product model. So let's run this test in the terminal now. So once again, we'll run Rails test/model/product test.rb. And we get an error. No fixture named product found for fixture set products. Looks like we might be using a wrong name for our product fixture. If you have a quick look in the products.yaml file, oh yes, we called the products 1 and 2. So let's change this to 1. And now let's run the test again. Okay, so we now get a test failure as expected. Test title should be present, expected true to be nil or false. So now let's go ahead and change the product model to add a validation for the title field so that this test passes. So here we'll say validates title presence true. And now if we run the test again, this time it will pass. We can write another assertion to check the error that's set on the product. So we can say assert includes product.errors title can't be blank. So we're saying when this product fails validation, the error message that's added to the record should be can't be blank. And we run the test again, and it still passes. So both our assertions are passing. Okay, now let's write another test, another validation test, and this time it'll be for the price field. So we'll say test price should be present and positive. And we'll start by setting the price for the product to nil. And then once again, we'll say assert not product.valid. And when we run the test, once again, we expect it to fail because we haven't added this validation to the model. And as expected, we have one passing test and one failure. That's what this green dot followed by the red F means. So the first test is passing and the second one is failing. And you can see which one is failing. Test price should be present and positive, and it even points out the line number of the assertion that's failing, 17. Expected true to be nil or false. So let's go ahead and make this test pass. We add another validation in the product model. This time we say validates price, presence true, but we don't want to just check for presence. We also want to make sure that the value is greater than 0. So we can say numericality greater than 0. And once again, we run the test, and now both the tests pass. Now, one good practice is to keep your unit tests as simple and small as possible. Preferably, they should only test one thing at a time. So here, instead of testing for both presence and positivity in one test, let's break this out into two separate tests. So in this first test, we'll just test for presence. So I'll remove this and positive. And in the second test, we'll test that the price is greater than 0. So instead of nil, this time we'll set the price to 0. You could set it to a negative number as well. And we'll run the test again. And now we have 3 runs, all passing. Just to be sure, let's also test the negative value. So we'll add a value of -1 and then do another assertion. And again, all our tests pass and we have one extra assertion now. So that's all the unit tests we're going to add to the product model. So here we've used test to make our model code better and handle validations.